Hey guys, welcome to Careers Uncorked. This is your co-host Sid.
And this is your co-host Sharfuz.
At Careers Uncorked, we host some amazing guests and hear their incredible stories.
And we're super excited to have you join us today.
Hey, Sharfuz, how's it going?
Hey, Sid, it's good. It's Saturday in Boston. Pretty sunny, nice. I think it's a little more chilly. Long weekend. Are you doing anything this weekend?
Me? Not really. I was about to say. You said it was Saturday in Boston. It's Saturday here too. So.
Yeah, dude. Really, I did not know. That's how time worked. It's Saturday in Austin as well. Wow.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, tomorrow morning I'm actually planning on going on a hike, so I'm excited for that. But yeah, other than that, pretty much staying home, staying away from the pandemic, and being safe. How about you?
Yeah, no, I really have nothing much planned because all I need this long weekend is our show today, and which I've been really excited about. I think this is rightfully the most highlight of my weekend, which is pretty happy about. But yeah, no, I'm just gonna be relaxing and chilling. But dude, I think today's show's episode is very special in a way that we're highlighting a student and that student's incredible journey so far. So that's something what excites me.
Yeah, for sure. I've heard so many stories about you and you interviewing for PM interviews. So I'm excited to hear about this guest perspective.
Yeah.
This was back when in your junior year, right? You were after graduation.
Yeah, no, it was back in college. But yeah, no, when Bhavish was I remember him. I was just doing this mock interviews, and he was one of the persons I did a lot of mock interviews with, and it was crazy. Like the way he answered all the questions, it was much better than a lot of the other senior PMs who are also interviewing, trying to do mock interviews. And I was like, holy shit, this kid's like a junior. I want to go kill myself. Like, how is he so good? I knew nothing about this when I was a junior. So yeah, let's hear from him, dude. Let's bring him to the stage. I'm excited.
Hi guys. Hi everyone.
Hey Bhavish, nice to meet you. And this is awesome. I'm super excited to hear about your journey. I think Sharfuz has really done a great job in building it up for you. So now you have to deliver to those results.
Yeah. And thank you so much for like the awesome intro and all the compliments. Hopefully I can live up to the expectations right now. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so let's kick off, Bhavish. Why don't you like give our audience a high level intro about yourself, a little bit about your background, or just a intro?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Bhavish, right? I'm a junior or senior now. I'm actually at the University of Michigan. I was about to say I'm a junior. My mind hasn't quite set yet. And I'm studying computer science with a minor in bioinformatics and a minor in business. And I'm really interested in entrepreneurship and health tech. Could talk about that stuff for hours. And I've done throughout college, I've done like software engineering internships, more like PME internships, experience with my own personal startups, working at startups. So like a lot of wide distribution of experiences. And I kind of landed on this PM thing and I was like, okay, yeah, like I know it's hard to get. I know it's gonna be a tough road ahead, but if I don't try, I'm definitely gonna regret it. And I really put my heart and soul into it, put a lot of effort in. And I was lucky enough to land a position. That's why I'm here now at this nice live event. Yeah, it's been an awesome last year for me in terms of just putting in the work and getting things out of it. And I'm happy I can be here today and kind of distribute my knowledge that I've gained as a result of that.
That's really, really exciting. So let's dive a little deeper into your experiences in college. So you mentioned there was a couple of things. You had some summer internships, but tell me a little about your background in college. Like, what was your major? What was some of the classes that you took that sort of helped you shape your career?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm a computer science major, but I didn't quite land on like the business minor and the bioinformatics minor off the bat. That kind of came in later. The business minor seems kind of obvious, like you're interested in entrepreneurship, like you'll do a business minor, right? The bioinformatics kind of angle of it was I felt like the true benefits of like computer science come when you like if in an entrepreneurial sense come when you like cross it with something else, right? Like there's a ton of great DevOps tools like you'll probably that people are building right now and things like that, but the really awesome applications of computer science are often at the intersection of computer science and something else, right? And so I was like, okay, I need to like intersect with something, and at the same time I had a lot of realizations about like how poor our current healthcare system is. Through personal experiences, I realized like, okay, how bad it actually is, and how untapped by tech healthcare is. And it really freaked me out. And it's something that I think about like every single day now. And I never felt passionate about a problem in my life, and it's a massive problem. And I realized like, okay, this is awesome. I found kind of something that I can sink my teeth into. And then I did like this bioinformatics minor. I started looking at more health tech stuff. In terms of classes that I took that I think really helped me, it was machine learning class I took here at college was amazing. I used stuff in there directly in my internship for Google,
Wow.
as well as biology classes that I've taken through the bioinformatics minor. I know it sounds weird. You're like, wait, but you're an APM, you work in tech. Like, what do these biology classes have to do with anything, right? And the thing is that it was so cool to see a different field and try to connect computer science to that field on the fly, right? I think it's very easy to pigeonhole yourself. I'm a big believer in the fact that diversity is not just ethically correct for an organization, but is intellectually correct for an organization, right? And that's that, you know, when you have multiple perspectives on things, when you have multiple knowledge bases, you can pool those things together to really do something unique, do something different. I'm a big believer in that. I think it's what taking these biology classes has taught me. And I hope it'll come in handy later in the future if I do endeavor into health tech and into my own entrepreneurial, career.
Gotcha. That's actually really interesting. So you mentioned like the intersection between two things, and these are sort of different topics too, right? Like computer science and biology. I've actually personally met a couple of startup founders who are getting really big in this industry because there's such a big gap in like this industry that you mentioned, the intersection between healthcare and technology. So I think it's really, really awesome that you started on so early. Like when you got into college, you were like, oh, I see this area. That's really, really awesome.
Both my, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say as well, like especially like in the pandemic world, it sort of shows that how much behind healthcare was in a lot of ways than other industries. And I've heard so many different commentaries about it. And there's so much room for technology innovation in the healthcare space. So that was a clear, evident need that showed up, as we know. But yeah, Bhavish, you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, I come from like a family of like healthcare professionals, and the way it kind of got to me was my mom actually had like some health issues like a couple years ago, and everything's fine now. But my mom's a doctor, and for a doctor that was having health issues, even she was having trouble to access healthcare effectively in a timely manner, in a cost-effective manner. Like it was terrible for her. Like imagine someone that doesn't know how the healthcare system works, doesn't know how a hospital operates, doesn't know anything about medicine, right? Like that it has to be terrible, right? It has to be the worst experience ever in your life. And so it really felt like if there's an impact to be made in this world, some of the biggest impact we can make is there. So yeah, that's kind of my perspective on things. That's why I got so into it.
That's really interesting. I'm glad like the problem was sort of something you saw through like your personal experience. It really motivates you to sort of delve deeper into it.
Yeah, he started his life as a product manager. Like, he was like, I see the problem, I'm going to build myself towards it. It's a personal problem I felt, like a product manager / entrepreneur, which is very inspiring, man. So next thing I'm curious about is that, so you mentioned a wide range of experiences you've had in your college years. Like you had internships and like you had your own entrepreneurial gigs as well. So what were some of your significant summer experiences that you have had, like internships or jobs during college so far, the last few years?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely want to talk about two internships I had that were just like absolutely formative. Cannot be more grateful for having those opportunities. The first one was my freshman year. I was very, very lucky to land a project management. I did more product management at the end of the day when I think about it, more than project management, but it was like a project management internship at this startup here in Ann Arbor called Clink. I think it was like, it was doing very, very well at the time. I haven't really kept a tab on it since then. And it was a small company, around 50 people, but moving really, really fast, born out of PhDs from Michigan that knew a ton about voice AI and wanted to build, like the next generation voice assistant, right? And that was amazing because I was in this group of just absurdly smart people, and I needed to be able to contribute, right? Like, and who am I? I'm a freshman in college, right? And when you go into any internship, that's how it's going to be. But I think it's amplified there, right? Everyone's PhDs, everyone knows so much. Like, how do I even become useful? And navigating that, identifying problem areas, I did it all on the fly with very, very little guidance. And if you ask me, it was a dry run of like what I did this summer, right? As an APM at Google. In fact, it was a harder task, right? Because I was given even less direction. And that was absolutely formative. There, I was able to make some good improvements. I think the suggestions I had there, I believe, are now in like their main flagship product, and are in like pretty much their core UI. So I was awesome experience, and the people there were absolutely amazing. That's the biggest thing, right? Is the people. Always, they're very friendly. Mentoring was amazing. And then the second experience I want to talk about was last year I worked as a software engineer at this company called Productive in Palo Alto. Absolutely love the people there as well. I hope someone from there is watching this recording or live or something like that, because they're just the best group of people to work with. And at that company, I directly reported to the CTO because it was a relatively small company at the time. His name was Ashish Agarwal, and that guy like blew my socks off. Like, this guy like just showed me how far behind I was in terms of being able to manage a team of engineers and effectively vet architecture, effectively just be a leader. And I saw this guy do it, and I was just like, crap, I'm not ready yet. Until then I was like, okay, let's go make a company out of college, right? And I saw him doing it. I was like, okay, if I can't do it as well as him, I shouldn't do it, right? Like, I should go learn. I should go learn how to do it as well as him first. And he absolutely blew my socks off. Like, I think I learned more about like managing people and what I need to do to achieve my long-term goals than I did about software engineering that summer. And that's not anything bad about the company. I still learned a ton about software engineering, but I just learned so much from him. And I'm deeply appreciative of that experience as well. So I think overall, to kind of sum up the findings there, is like, people are really important. Try to make an impact where you go, and don't just silo your learnings to what your project is or what your job is. Learn from the people around you, especially if you're at a startup. You're going to be around some amazing people, and learn from them outside of just your role or your intended career.
That was really beautiful, man. I totally agree with you. Just learning from people and just learn from just beyond the project you have, especially I think just being able to work at a startup, especially in your early years of college. Firstly, props to you for creating making that opportunity happen for yourself. And then I guess at a startup where you have more flexibility, you could learn a lot more from a lot of people around you. And that's awesome. And I think the other thing was that I just looked up Clink when you said it. And I was in TechCrunch 2018. I went there. And I don't know which year you were, but Clink actually did a demo on TechCrunch 2018. And Jason Mars, that's his name? Yeah, so I actually talked to him in 2018. I met the Clink team. I saw their demo. I was super impressed. And then I was outside the TechCrunch venue, me and my friend, and I saw the whole Clink team come out. And I just went up and I started talking to Jason over there. He was just there chilling, and I just started talking to the whole team. I even have their cards and stuff. And it's so funny you work there, because I kept tabs on them sometime. Like the last couple of years, I kind of didn't for a while. But they were super impressive, man, that you actually worked there, and they're such a great team.
Yeah, they're super fun people. It was a family. I was sad to have that internship end. And I think it's so cool that you knew them already.
Yeah,
you're a hustler, man. You're a hustler. That's what it's all about.
You're the hustler, dude. I just met them, and I wish, oh God, it would be so cool to work with them. And now, meanwhile, you're working there. Meanwhile, you've been there. No, I met them in 2018 in October. That's when
that was just after my internship. Then that was probably just after. Oh, I remember we were talking about. Yeah, I remember now. There was like all these jokes about like what we were gonna do on the stage, and we had all these crazy ideas. Yeah. Anyway, I remember that now.
Okay, yeah, I was there. I saw them live, and I was like, "Damn, dude! You were already working there. That's super impressive. Super cool, man. I was really impressed by the team. But yeah, so we went on a little tangent there. Sorry, Seth. Just reminiscing some good days. But yeah, so also, so you mentioned that you were you got a little more into entrepreneurship as well. And I saw on your LinkedIn that you also had some sort of a project there. Something is that something kind of like very curious to hear, like what was that, or like what kind of experience was that for yourself in college, whatever it was.
Yeah, definitely. So the story behind it is that my friends and I eating in the dining hall for a while, and like any other college student, we got completely sick of it. And Ann Arbor has amazing food, right? And so we started just going around campus a lot more, eating out a lot more, getting Grubhub. Like we started eating a lot basically. We really love food, and we realized that, hey, some favorite places don't really have great marketing, and additionally, like the food in dining halls is crap, and students don't really have a great second option to like a dining hall plan where they can like cost effectively eat food. And we ran the numbers on it, and like even the dining hall meal plan is like really expensive. Like you're paying a lot of money per meal, right? And we were like, okay, if we can like effectively communicate the numbers to people, right? If we can effectively provide them with low cost meals that are better in a more accessible place, and we can provide these restaurants with solid marketing, there seems to be some kind of fit there, right? And we went through a bunch of different solutions. There's actually a lot of legal problems with our initial ideas. So we just kind of kept running through ideas, and like we were landing on one that finally seemed like it would encompass what we wanted, as well as be actually legal. And the solution was basically a subscription service where students could pay, I think at the time it was $2 a month, and they would get 10% off all our restaurants and access to a bunch of free food events that would also be sponsored by our partner restaurants, right?
Right.
And it was basically the concept of like just buying in bulk and providing marketing, right? And it worked. If you ask me, I think it worked pretty well. It could have worked even better with some more attention to detail. And I think we did a lot of things wrong. But ultimately, we had over 300 users. We had a bunch of free food events. We made over 3,000 in revenue, I think, something like that. So it was fun. It was really fun. And most importantly, it was a lot of learning I did because the UI was not clear enough. It was an awkward experience when you're at the cash register and requesting your discount. There was a bunch of small details that we kind of missed, right? That we would have probably picked up on if we did more deep testing, right? If we did a better user test, we would be able to pick up on those. So it's definitely what I learned from that experience. But I think that experience was invaluable to where I'm at now in terms of a PM or in terms of any kind of project building role, is that I have that attention to detail now, and I have that kind of user focus where I feel like I can build much better products. So that's the main takeaway from that experience. And I recommend everyone, if you have any idea, anything bugging you, anything just like, even if it's small, like me and my friend were just sitting on the couch like 20 minutes ago, and we were like splitting the cost of like what we had to drink yesterday, and we just realized that there's no good app for this because some people just had like one seltzer, and other people had like a beer, and like all of it's like different prices, and we'd feel bad charging people too much, and then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go fix this. I'm gonna go make an app about this and do something about this because this is bad. And I feel like that's how your attitude should be. Just go fix the problems that you see. Try to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I really I admire that you actually did that, and like you took the initiative, because a lot of people would think about those ideas but never actually go around to doing it. And that's where the most learning is. And I think even though it did not, whatever that venture you did, it did not become the next Amazon, but it really set you up like with so much learning. And the faster you fail as an entrepreneur in college, I feel like the more better you off will be for your next one as a PM or just as an entrepreneurial mindset, as a having that user-centric mindset. So props to you for that. I highly recommend that kind of experience to anyone going in for college, like still in college. But yeah.
Very true. I really agree. I think it's a great idea. Anything to do with food, I think helps get going.
Yeah.
All right. So next segment, it's actually a pretty special segment. It's questions from Williams. It's sort of a rapid fire themed segment. So I'm going to kick us off, and then Shafuz will take us from there. The first question.
Okay.
What is your hidden talent?
I can play guitar. I don't know if that hidden. I'll give you a more interesting hidden talent. My thumb can touch my arm. I don't know if you guys see it there, but my thumb is touching my arm. It's actually hard to do because my other
Wait.
thumb can't do it. Like my thumb touches my
Oh,
arm.
shit, you could do that, dude. Dude, that's messed up.
Yeah, but
I
I
know that.
on a more normal note, I play guitar. I really enjoy running. I used to be pretty good at it. Now I'm out of shape and a scrub, but I used to be pretty good at running as well, like long distance.
Wow.
That's pretty cool, man. Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. Okay, next one. Your favorite food in college? Well, yeah.
There's this place. Okay, it's Thai food, right? Got to be Thai food. Thai food's insane. And there's this place on campus called No Thai, and they make like really fast, quick. It's like Thai fast food almost. And they're local to Michigan, and absolutely terrible for you. But while you're eating it, it just feels amazing. And after you're done eating it, it feels terrible. But while you're eating it, it feels fantastic.
Yeah, we all have food like that, food place like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it.
All right. Book or podcast recommendation?
Ooh. See, here's my thing. I don't read enough books or podcasts. I feel like in terms of books, I've read a couple this summer, but there's books that everyone's read. So it's not going to be anything unique. Actually, there's this
Harry
one
Potter?
book. Harry Potter. There's one book that I actually kind of enjoyed. And it gave me a fresh perspective on things. At least the first couple of chapters, it was kind of just went against everything I believed in, which I appreciated. After that, the book got kind of monotonous, and the first couple of chapters are also very aggressive. So it might not be for everyone, but it's the subtle art of not giving a fuck, and it's I think it's pretty good. I think I think a lot of people have read it. It's a pretty popular book, but like I think for people like me, and if there's other people watching this that are like me, like it's like super like zoned in all the time and like always stressed out.
Yeah.
It's an interesting read, at least the first couple chapters.
Yeah, I've heard about that book, but I haven't read it. But thanks for that. I'll definitely put that on my priority list.
I definitely give it a read. Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you. Okay. What's something that not many people know about you?
Ooh. You guys already asked about the hidden talent, so like now I don't know what people wouldn't know about me. I can't swim. That's a good one.
You can't swim?
I cannot swim. Yeah, basically, long story short, my sister's 3 years older than me. She broke her arm, and she was in swimming lessons, right? And she'd been 3 years ahead of me, right? My parents didn't want to waste the swimming lessons that she couldn't go to anymore because she broke her arm. So they put me in her swimming lessons. So I was jumping in the pool without any floaties on, nothing. I was super young, and ever since then I was like scarred by water, like super afraid. And now I'm not afraid of water anymore. Like I'll jump in or whatever, but I never learned how to swim because I was so afraid as a kid. But yeah, that's something people don't know about me.
Man, like the land is your domain. Like you're away from the sea.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense. Yeah.
All right. If not for product management, what would you be doing?
Probably software engineering. What would I want to be doing is an interesting question. I'd want to be doing like entrepreneurship. I think I would have been doing software engineering just because it just feels more stable out of college. I think it gives you a sense of security, and it gives you a kind of legitimacy and sense that like, okay, I can go back and have a stable life if I want to, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of what I'd want to do, I would try to become an entrepreneur like right now if I could. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Makes sense. Yeah, no, for sure. You definitely have that entrepreneurial vibe going on for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Okay, so next one. Favorite childhood TV show?
SpongeBob SquarePants, easily. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I would say and like add to that, but I don't even think it needs an explanation. It's a very popular answer. So I'll stick with that one.
Right.
Okay. All right.
What's your favorite Google product?
Favorite Google product?
This is not an interview question, but just like don't do it. Like
Yeah, I probably had this written down somewhere at some point. Now I don't even remember it. Um, I
Google
would
Plus.
say my favorite Google product is probably Google Photos, and
Hmm.
it's because I worked on it this summer. I think I just have so much love for it now.
Yeah.
Um, and also it's like I use it I love the product. Like it's so useful.
Mhm.
And I love the way they've brought like AI into the product in a very useful way. And how they keep it elegant and simple.
Mhm.
Um, I think it's a great product. And I worked on it, so I guess
yeah,
I have to say that.
at this point, you're just advertising for yourself. Oh, sure, look,
Yeah.
I worked at Google Photos. But yeah, no, that's that's pretty awesome. Okay, the next one. What's the best part about going to college in New Michigan?
The people. I'll like always stick to, and the thing is like when you go to like most places and like that's like, oh, what's the best part of this organization? Everyone always goes like, oh, the people are amazing. But um, I think I specifically was able to find the right people here for myself. So
Mhm.
maybe I was lucky. Um, I think it's a big school,
Mhm.
all kinds of people. Um, you can make whatever you want out of it, and it makes sure that you can. But you have to make sure that you navigate it and you don't just sit in the doldrums, right?
Yeah,
And that you're like you know what like you want to get out of this, right? Experience. You can't just like go in and just like wander around. So that's definitely like a difficult thing for people on one hand, but also a very useful thing because no matter what kind of organization you want, what kind of people you want to hang out with, there's always a group of people for it. And they all have like a great mindset towards, you know, rising up together or just having fun together, whatever the pursuit is,
Mhm.
doing it
yeah.
together, and that's a big part of being here in Michigan.
Cool. Happy to hear that you were able to find that community for yourself. That's the goal. Always in
Yeah,
college.
definitely.
Yeah.
So,
100%.
You're
yeah,
making sure Cruz want to go back to college now.
yeah,
Mish.
yeah.
All right. So the last question we have is, who is your favorite co-host, Sid or Shafuz?
Ooh.
Yeah,
I
this is
know
a
we
very
haven't talked much, Sid, but I'm gonna go with Sid on this one. I'm joking. I'm joking. I have to go with Shafuz. Shafuz is a good friend at this point. Um,
I was so gonna be hurt, bro.
yeah, I saw your face. Just your face looks like it was in pain. Someone just dropped something on your toe. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Shafuz. This man, he's helped me improve my interview ability. He's done a lot for me, and he's doing this for me too. So thank you. I appreciate it. And definitely, hopefully we'll have a interact in the future as well.
Oh yeah, Bhavish, the pleasure's mine. And yeah, dude. So we have like this whole tally point going on. So I'm like really behind now. State is leading right now with the points. So I really, I'm gonna feel really betrayed. Oh man, dude, you you're not gonna vote for
Yeah,
me either.
you were probably counting on me. Yeah, it's probably the
Yeah, I
the
was
one.
counting on you.
Is it like 100-1 right now? Is my guess? No, I'm joking.
Yeah, it's like a 4 or 5 points lead. I think I don't know.
That's really weird because Shafuz invites his friends and then they end up voting for me. So it's like, whoa, I do all the work. I find these people.
That's too funny.
I'm glad I was able to revert that. But yeah, Bhavish, thanks for being such a great sport. That was really super fun. And now to Sid, you want to kick us off with the segment that we're really excited to dive deeper with.
Yeah, for sure. So I think, Bhavish, I think one of the questions that's really interesting is you mentioned a lot of experience that you had in project management and software. Um, what was one of the biggest reasons that you got interested in the product management itself, compared to these other fields that you were exploring?
Yeah, it's a good question. I tried everything, right? So I tried software. I had a taste of consulting from student orgs here, as well as like um, kind of talking to a lot of like big three consultants and stuff. So I had a taste for software engineering, consulting, even entrepreneurship, right? And as well as a small taste for PM.
Yeah.
And I had a taste for startups, big tech, all that. Um, and through those learnings, like I had like a bunch of pro cons floating around in my head, right? And I realized like, okay, if you want to learn rapidly, really quickly about the things that are going to make you a great entrepreneur, probably you want to do consulting or PM, right? Now, between those two, I was like, why PM, right? And for me, the main things there was like consulting is great because you're going to get really, really deep industry level knowledge on a wide distribution of industries, and you're going to be able to see where the future is, right? That's what you're going to get out of it, and that's a great quality for an entrepreneur, right? But some of the more tactical execution bits you won't have. On the flip side, product management, you'll have a lot of those tactical execution bits. You'll have higher level strategy as well. But you might not be able to see where an entire industry is going because you're typically siloed to your company's information, or you're kind of like just within this organization. You have to deal with the burden that comes with that as well, right? But ultimately, I decided for PM because I was like, okay, if the main benefit for me of consulting is that I'm gonna just learn about something and learn where the industry is going, I can just do that on my own by doing by grinding it out off hours and researching the crap out of whatever industry I want to, right? And getting on the phone with people, reaching out to people, I can hustle my way through that. But doing the tactical people management, buy-in winning, data gathering of a PM is somewhat difficult to replicate on the side. It comes from a organizational thing, right? And so that's why I ultimately lean in that direction for my long-term goals.
Wow, that's actually really, really thoughtful. And since you mentioned that consulting was your second option, I actually chose consulting. So I think we'd make a great team if you're ever looking to do a startup.
For sure, man. Yeah, I definitely I think consulting is like an amazing field in general, and you're going to learn so much so rapidly. It's really useful for entrepreneurship. Yeah.
So another question I had was, what was sort of your approach going into product management? I know it's one of the hardest industries to break into. So what was sort of your approach going into it from the start?
Are you talking about like for my internship or for like when I was applying?
For your internship primarily, because your internship rolled over, right, to the full time?
Yeah. So when I got into the internship, right, like honestly, like none of us knew what the hell was happening. Like we were just like, okay, we're gonna be PM interns. We don't even know what being a PM means yet, right? Like, if you asked me to explain to you what a PM is, it would probably take me 5 to 10 minutes of rambling right now, right? And so it was really tough for us to figure out like, okay, what are we even doing this summer? How do we approach it? All that. Whether it's going to be interviewing or starting an internship, honestly anything at all that you're not sure about, it's all about just like reaching out to people, finding the people that can help you and that have stepped on the same path as you before or a similar path, and just asking them, where do I put my feet, right? And so that's what I did. And luckily, the Google APM program is so tight knit that I was like literally able to just email the recruiter and be like, hey, can I talk to an APM? And she like set me up with 2 or 3 of them, and I was able to just talk to them, and they were like, yeah, you want to make sure you do this, make sure you like do this, make sure you hit the ground running like this. And then I had like a clear game plan. But even with that, I don't think I really hit my stride and hit my high productivity, like my you're proud of the work you're doing kind of self until like 6 weeks into my internship, when until at that point I'd restricted myself to this thinking that I'm an intern. And after I got past the 6-week point, I was like, dude, you have 6 weeks, you're working like your dream job right now. This is what you dreamed of as a kid. You're going to be building these tech products that are going to be in billions of people's hands, right? And you have 6 weeks to do that. You don't know what's going to happen about a return offer, right? And at that point, I was like, okay, you are the PM. You're going to make this project as amazing as possible in these next 6 weeks, and you're going to do everything you can. You're going to crank out every last like drop of that. And after I got approached it with that mindset, I was way more productive, having way more fruitful conversations with people. Was able to connect with people better. Had better ideas. Like everything was better across the board, and the productivity went through the roof as well. And that second half was really unforgettable for me. And I absolutely loved waking up in the morning and stepping out of my bed and then moving to my desk and then getting on a Google video call. I loved every second of it, despite the virtual environment, for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just love like how you described that, and like that we could just see the happiness and like the excitement in your voice. And no, thanks for sharing that experience. So I think one of the most challenging part for getting into such a prestigious program as Google as an APM or our PM in recruitment for juniors especially, because for when you're a rising junior, right, is like the application process. So walk us through your application process. Like when you initially found out that you want to be a PM, what did you do? How did you apply? Let's start with that.
Yeah, definitely. I know timelines are a bit different this year. I know some internships have already opened, things like that. So first thing is like you are not like if you're watching this video now and you just decided to do PM recruiting, like foot on the gas, like right now, like after you get off of this live stream or watch this video, like go put your foot on the gas pedal and fully gun it, right? Because you are late, to be frank. Because to be honest with you, like a lot of the stuff, starts happening in August. I started in August, and some people start even earlier, right? Some people start in July, June, which is crazy to me. But now the way the recruiting cycle is like everyone's apps kind of open at different times, and they're really, really competitive. So they're only open for like sometimes a week or even 3 or 4 days, right? So you really need to keep your eyes on this stuff and like really, really make sure you're pay attention to detail with this stuff. And when you start out, you want to make sure that first you just get your bearings. Figure out what you're going to do to get this interview or get this internship. What that entails is talking to people, right? What I said before, talk to people that have walked the path before you, figure out where their steps were, right? And so that's what I did. I called some people that had recruited for PM in the past. None of them had actually done it successfully, so it was kind of daunting because they were like, yeah, I did this, and this, but didn't get me anything anyway, So it was really, really scary for me, but I was able to kind of get my bearings of what the fundamentals are.
Mm-hmm.
After that, just start executing on them. And what those fundamentals look like is like, okay, you're going to be reading the books like Decode and Conquer and Cracking the PM Interview and, a bunch of other books, read the news, do mock interviews, learn about the companies. And that's all like standard. And I'd be happy to share more information about that process. But having a clear focus on getting your foot in the door is really, really important too. Like, are you going to do it through referral? Are you going to do it through career fair? Are you going to do it by emailing a recruiter? How are you going to do it? Like a LinkedIn message. Like you got to have a number of strings to pull for everything. And you need to pull all your strings because it's hard to get your foot in the door. It's hard to get the interview. And honestly, like when you get that interview, give yourself a pat on that back because that is the first massive leap in this process. So yeah, I would say those are my insights. And by the way, I told Sharpuz and Sid, I'm putting together this like nice about 9-page doc, just a bunch of really concise learnings and a concrete plan on how you can tackle PM interview prep. And I'm hoping it's going to be really useful to a lot of people because I did a ton of mock interviews and you don't need to do those many mock interviews. I don't want anyone to do those many mock interviews. So hopefully take the learnings from there, be more efficient than me and get those internships and get those full-time offers.
We're super excited. If you guys do want a copy of that, make sure to stay tuned on our LinkedIn. Go follow us if you haven't already.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll super excited to see that, Bhavish. And there's so many people who would really be impacted by that. You would really benefit. And thanks for emphasizing so much about getting the interview because getting the interview is probably one of the hardest parts. Just to get an interview in all this because it's so selective. It's so like hard to just get an interview, and especially if you're not from like maybe Stanford and Harvard, right? Especially if you're from like a super non-target school, it gets way harder. So very briefly, Bhavish, I have a question. So what do you think is like an ideal PM resume for especially people who are as a rising junior, like applying for a APM internship? So for example, Google. What are some of the key things that will look good on people's resume that they would help them?
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking at my guide right now actually because I like clearly bolded it out. So 1 second. Yeah, so three main things. And I think if you do these 3 things, or if you have these 3 components to your resume, you should be able to get an interview in most places. With that being said, like sometimes they won't even look at your resume, right? Like if you don't reach out to a recruiter, go to a career fair, things like that. So make sure you have a method for them to actually look at your resume, don't just like submit it and call it a day. You want people to look at this thing. But what you want is 3 main things. 1, have experiences driven by passion, right? It's very, very easy to just, as I said before, kind of sit in the doldrums and just kind of like waddle around college and like just like kind of keep hearing all the noise and not really being able to find who you are. and introspection is critical for personal growth and then eventually professional growth, right? So find what you're passionate about. Find something you give a crap about, right? And chase after that thing like crazy, right? And it doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be solving global healthcare, right? It could be as simple as like making masks for people that you know are affected by, you know, or for making PPE for, you know, healthcare professionals, things like that, right? Just have something you care about, you know, and have experiences you care about. The bigger the dream is, obviously the better, but like, you know, just give a crap about your experiences. Second thing would be have a quantifiable impact. This is something anyone will tell you. Make sure you know what the quantifiable impact of what your work is. And I know that's not always what you're doing. Like when you're working as a software engineer, you're just cranking out lines of code, making sure shit works. And then when you're done with it, you're like, wait, what was the quantifiable impact? Like I'm not the PM. I don't know what metrics they tracked, right? So try to go back and think about like the user journey around it. Think about how this is actually going to impact the bottom line business, and try to run some assumption work based on what you know about you know, the work you did. I think that's very okay to be like, you know, this improved this by roughly this much. Like that's what I'm assuming. Like I definitely know better than the recruiter how impactful my work is, right?
Yeah.
Like so you know, show how impactful your work is. Like don't be afraid to show it. Like if you have a good reasonable estimate of what the impact was, even though no one at the company directly said this is the impact, like I feel like it's very fair for you to put it on your resume, because ultimately you know more than anyone else does about that experience, and they want that information, right? Like they want to know how impactful it was. So you're just handicapping yourself if you don't put it on there. And then the last thing, sorry, I forgot there's a third thing. Oh yeah, this is obviously even more obvious. Make it like extremely skimmable. Like, based on your resume template, the eyes of the reviewer could move like in different shapes, right? So I would like give it to people, like put on 20 seconds on like a timer and let them read your resume for just 20 seconds. Stop the timer, take off the resume, and then be like, okay, what did you get out of this? And if the top 3 things, top 4 or 5 things that they say is what you want a recruiter to get out of it, then you've succeeded. But that's how you should be testing this. It's a great way to test whether or not your resume actually works.
Wow.
That were such actionable steps there, dude. That was really good. I really like that the third idea about just that exercise. That was really good. I don't think many people do that.
Very true.
Yeah, no, I definitely learned a lot. Thanks, Bhavish. Now, this was a good teaser for your resources, so we can't wait to get the whole copy of it.
Yeah, that's like a quarter of a page of the full 9 pages. So definitely there's a lot more information there.
Wow.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Super excited about that. So yeah, so I think that another thing. So you got the interview, okay? Tell us how you prepared. And if you don't mind sharing, like of all the different places you interviewed for, if you don't mind sharing, where are all the places you interviewed for the internship journey when you were interviewing?
Yeah, so I interviewed a lot of places for software engineering. It's a bigger pool, like as you might imagine. For PM, I actually only interviewed with Microsoft and Google. And how I prepared, I mean, I prepared like crazy. Like I can't even believe how much I did looking back at it. There were weekends where I had legitimately like 18 mock interviews in a weekend. More than that, maybe if you include Fridays on the weekends. It was insane. Like what I was doing was just, it was not even worthwhile, right? I wasn't learning. I was just doing reps for the sake of doing reps, right? There's a lot of like, I feel like I have a lot to talk about here in terms of like, what did I do to prepare? But the point is I overworked myself and it wasn't worthwhile. I've seen people get the Google APM internship with less than 5 mock interviews and cracking the PM interview, and that's it, right? So do not take like my advice and be like, this is the only way, this is a silver bullet, right? And even when I send out that guide to people, like it's not a silver bullet. It's a set of learnings that will help you and guide you and will probably give you better chances than other candidates, right? But it's not going to get you the offer. Ultimately, only you can do that for yourself by trying to find your own unique path. I don't know if I'm answering your question the way you want me to answer it. I just feel like there's a lot of content. But the point, the gist of it is, I did a lot. I read a lot. I did a lot of mock interviews, and it was not necessary, right? I could have probably done a fifth of the work and would have been equally as good at the interview. I don't know if I would have gotten the offer. Like, we can't tell if I would have gotten the offer or not, but like,
Yeah.
would have been just as good in terms of interviewing. Would have been just as confident. So yeah.
That's great.
Yeah,
I think this ties in really well to one of the questions from the audience. So Josh, and he's wondering what actually was it useful? What was some of your takeaways from like doing these mock interviews? Did it improve your answers over time?
So yeah, this is a tough question. So the question, just to clarify, is when you did mock interviews, were you actually improving your answers? Is the question, right?
Yeah.
The straight answer,
and improving them over time.
yeah, I mean, over time, like, yeah, like long term, they improved. From interview to interview, I was not improving at some points. I was straight flat. At some point, I became scripted because I had like all these, like, I kind of built my own framework in my head and I was just using it over and over again. Now it just seems scripted, right? And I think it doesn't actually improve your, in order for you to like improve your answers, you need to go out of every mock interview knowing very tangibly what you're going to improve on the next one, knowing very tangibly how am I going to break this framework and break out of it on the next one, and knowing very tangibly what I need to improve. So I would say what helped me the most in terms of mindset of improving from each one was that I would think about the interview like a bunch of components, and would try to experiment on each component, if that makes sense, right? And so it would be like A/B testing, right? So it's like I would think of different ways to think of user needs and explain user needs to people, different ways to think of solutions and structure the solutions, different ways to even think about high-level strategy stuff before you kind of dig into like deeper problems. I just kept thinking of different ways to do these components. And when I started doing those kind of like experiments with like the componentry of the interview, that's when I felt like I was really, really getting a lot out of each interview. And so I encourage everyone to experiment. Experiment the crap out of your interviews. That's how you make the most out of a mock interview. Don't try to follow the script. Don't follow the framework. The framework's great. Circles is great. Don't get me wrong. It checks all the buckets, but circles isn't going to make you stand out, right? Everyone has circles. You experimenting and finding your path will make you stand out.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I think that really answered the question very well.
Yeah. So this is a time for a special segment. I know we're up past the 45-minute mark, but this is a segment where I've been super excited about. And Sid, we just had a Gotham comment, something that's exactly what we're thinking. Let's get that number to 141. Bhavish, I know you had 140 mock interviews, but let's time for 141 for our book, our old time's sake. So everyone tuning in right now, and we're gonna get Bhavish to do a product design question, and we could uncork how an actual Google PM and APM, and again going into as a Google APM full time, solve the product design question. So Bhavish's mock interview 141. Are you ready for this?
I'm scared. Warning the people, it's been a minute since I've done a mock interview. And I'm probably going to be trying to sprint through this. I think we only have like 12 minutes left. So I'll be trying to sprint through this about 10 minutes so I can leave a little bit of time to critique my own answer.
Okay.
Which 10 minutes is about a quarter of the time or less that you would normally get. So let's try to do it though. I'll try to get it done.
Okay, yeah. Try to take feel free to take a little bit more time. We could go a little bit if time permits. But okay, so the question is, how would you design a bicycle renting app for tourists?
Okay. Interesting. Bicycle renting for tourists. And it's an app. So it's like a app on a smartphone, you're gonna buy it. Okay, interesting. And by bicycle renting, I'm just curious about how our like infrastructure works. Is it like Lime where like it's like, you know, just like a bunch of bikes like everywhere? Is it more like the city bikes where there's like stations and stuff? Or is that up to my own design? Because from my understanding, I'm scoped to just the app.
Yeah, so I think for this you'll feel free to make your own assumption. The scope is that we have a lot of tourists in the city coming in, and we want to make an app that would make it much easier for them to rent the bicycle.
Yeah.
rent bicycles out. Yeah, I think feel free to go ahead with your assumptions.
Okay, cool. So seems like our top line goal here is going to be revenue. And like if we wanted to like even like set some metrics right now, like it feels like probably revenue per bike is probably like a even better metric. But I'm gonna like, kind of think about revenue moving forward and just making sure that we're trying to capitalize on that, right? And I know there's a lot of competitors in this space as well, like a lot of like competing bike companies. So I want to take into account that information as well. I know Lime Scooter CEO had like a quote like almost a year ago. He was like, the only thing that's going to make people pick Lime over Bird or anything else is that it's the first one they see, right? And I actually kind of disagree with that notion. And let's try to break that right here today. In terms of, I think I first want to understand, like, very crisply who this user is. We talked about tourists. There's all kinds of tourists, like families, people going on a honeymoon, it's individual tourists, friends. I think it's very worthwhile to think of them very generically and think them kind of crisply understand them, but on a generic level. And their kind of end goal is just to go see this place, right? If they're tourists, their end journey, the end goal for them is to go, experience this place, have an awesome experience with it, see landmarks, enjoy the culture, enjoy the people, et cetera, right? And so if we consider that like the overarching critical user journey, right? How do our bikes fit into that for them, right? How do our bikes fit into that desire? And I think that's what we want to get at here is how can we fulfill that, right? Rather than just thinking about the the rental process and all that, because in my opinion, that's like somewhat trivial, right? That's a solved problem as we've seen. So I'm going to be thinking more about that part of the user journey is really enhancing the tourist aspect of it. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, I think that's a great start. Yeah, let's go with that.
Okay, cool. So in terms of like the tourist revenue journey, in terms of seeing like the beauty of the place and stuff like that, the main problems I see and that I've experienced in the past is that people often don't quite know where to go at times, right? You might have dead time, downtime. You might have dedicated a night to relaxation, and you're like, oh, let's go on these bikes, right? Typically, going on these bird scooters or bikes is not something people plan for, right? And so we want to adapt to that experience, and so we want to adapt to like the spontaneity, right? And the key pain points of the spontaneity are that people don't know where they want to go, and that people, might not only not know where they want to go, but they might also have like time constraints and dinner reservations and things like that, right? So how do we factor all those things in, like the variables of their tourism, right? So the variability of their tourism also needs to be factored in, right? Other than spontaneity, I think another important thing here with regards to these bikes is that it's kind of like could be a cultural thing. I think it would have been a great question for you to ask earlier, by the way, whether this is just in the United States, just in a particular city, Europe, et cetera, et cetera. How international is the scope of this?
Yeah.
But I'm going to assume this is very, very international. This is like Barcelona or something like that, Rome. And
yeah.
I think there's also like this sense of like not knowing, the best way to get to certain places, or not just that, but the culture, right? Like, can you ride your bike down the street in one area? Is this like a walkway? People don't really know where they can turn the bikes when and how they should be interacting on a bike, right? So the cultural barriers of bike riding, right?
Yeah.
I think those are some cool goals we can tackle here. In terms of driving revenue, I think we want people to pick our scooters over other scooters. What we want to go for in that sense for tourists, what's really going to hit it home is how can this scooter enhance our tourism journey?
Yeah.
Cultural issues, I think, are definitely existent, but they are not quite as painful to the user. They're not quite as severe to the user. And I think, just looking at what we're trying to optimize for, which is revenue and user impact here, like I think we want to go for like the whole variability of their trip and people not knowing where they want to go. And we want to make sure our bike app actually helps the user there. And so that's the direction I'm going to go in.
Okay, yeah, I think so. You've identified some of the pain points about the spontaneity, about the cultural, and you prioritized the first pain point based on how it would affect the top line revenue, which is our main KPI, right?
Yeah.
So that all makes sense. Okay, let's go with that pain point. That makes sense.
Okay, cool. So yeah, let's go with like the people don't know where they want to go, and there's a sense of variability to their journey, right?
Right.
So I'm just gonna go rattle off some solutions at this point. We have like about less than 5 minutes left now. I'm just gonna go rattling off some solutions
Yeah.
and maybe vet them real quick. So some solutions I can definitely think of is like a trip planner, where it can like take you from place to place, based on some constraints that you can input, and that all works through the app. I'm also thinking about like some kind of like this would actually cross over and like I think this would be a solution almost for all three of them. Thinking of like an augmented reality, like kind of like navigation thing. So like you can like put your phone on the bike and like in AR to like A, show you where to go, but B, also like be like your tour guide, right? And so like people can give you like tours of the city while you're just like driving around, right? And it's way more involved than like an audio tour, right? So like AR, GPS plus like tour guide, right? I think something else that can help people kind of figure out what they want to do with their time allotted. Maybe we could do some stuff like seeing where they're tracking their location, determining like where they've been previously, and if they've already seen something or they've already been somewhere, like we can just like automatically take them to places they haven't seen yet, or based on how they've rated places in the past. Like if this is Google making this, I'm not even sure if it is anymore, but if it is Google, we probably know how much they even liked places that they've been to previously, and we can give them like similar places. Like let's say they really like religious monuments, we can take them to more religious monuments, right? Things like that, right? So predictively, take people to places they haven't seen yet or places they might like. And I'm thinking real quick if there's anything else I really want to do. I think that's all that's hitting me right now. I think I want to go into like kind of just vetting these ideas real quick. But in terms of the trip planner, the AR GPS plus tour guide, and the predictive kind of travel guide, I think the most revenue driving would probably be the AR GPS plus tour guide, especially if you offered it for free. All tours cost money. Every tour costs money, right? And if we just give it for free with our like system, with like when you rent a bike over, that'd be a huge bonus, right? Like because people are just so sick of paying for tours. And I think we need to consider like some considerations of having the future, like content creation. We need to make sure these tours are really, really good, funny, entertaining for a family, right? Or for any kind of audience, right? You'd want to make sure that there's also like the AR is good and that the GPS system is good. Like someone like walking, if you're going like you might be going pretty fast, you want to collide into pedestrians or anything like that. So we need to definitely do a lot of testing in both those aspects. But I think that one's going to be the main revenue driver because it feels like a really high tech, high quality product. There's a lot of user value there where the user wants it, which is in the tours, in the knowledge and the information, the tourism, right? And I think that would be like the main thing I'd go for. I think long-term vision though, like I'd also want the predictive locations. I think that's awesome. Maybe that's like a P1 and the AR GPS is a P0. So that's what I'd go with. I would track revenue, but I think I would track even more granular metrics like, how often are they listening to the tour guide? Are they talking over the tour guide? Like what's like the paying attention uptime on the tour guide, right? How high quality are these tour guides? And for the predictive locations, like we could look at like some kind of like version of click-through rate there of like, are they actually going to the predict locations we're like telling them to go to, or are predictions crappy? Once they're getting there, what's the satisfaction there once they got there? Things like that is all stuff we want to look at as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That definitely makes sense. Thanks for sharing the KPIs. Is there anything else you would want to add? Because I think your solution is clear, why you want to go for it, what you're going to track. Is there anything else you would like to add to your response?
I think I would like to say there's definitely like a lot of barriers for this. Like you're gonna need to deal with the country's government if you're gonna like do all this tourism stuff, right? You're gonna need to deal with a lot of regulation if you're gonna try to sink your teeth into their tourism industry, because they make a lot. A lot of these cities like make the bulk of their money off of tourism, and a lot of these monuments and a lot of these historical locations will make a lot of money off of just people buying tours and stuff. So now if you're trying to take that money away from them with like some free tours built into your product, you're going to get a lot of backlash. So that's like one other thing I'd consider if I was a PM on this project.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that was very insightful. But yeah, Bhavish, that was really awesome, man.
What did you think? I'd like your feedback one last time, man.
One last time, my feedback. Yeah, no, I think obviously the time constant was really, it was like, it was very fastened. Like really, you had to answer it really rapidly. I think you did a great job. Just like going to the structure. The structure was good. I think the question, like my first thing was, I would ask like if it was an international or local tourism spot, so which you asked later, but that would be like, I think that was the one question that I thought you initially missed, because there could be a language barrier as well, depending on how international the tourism spot is. I think that one. I was curious. Maybe you missed the question about like resources or constraints, or maybe a timeline, maybe like because in that way, maybe how soon you have to launch this product, or is it like a short timeline or a long timeline? So I mean, I know we used to do that a lot, so I don't know if that mattered here or not.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, I think there's 100 questions I missed along the way, and a lot of structure that I was lacking along the way, and just a lot of rambling I did. Just definitely would have done this differently. And I think specifically with regards to the constraints and stuff,
Yeah.
I think I typically like to, from my practice, I typically like to like kind of engage the interviewer in this like kind of long-term sense. Like I like to do like more long-term thinking with them rather than like short-term thinking, unless they
Right.
directly like, you know, point me there.
Tell
But yeah, that's just like something I generally do. And I normally ask a question up top, is that I'm going to be like, not like, I kind of mentioned it here where I'm like, I'm not going to be thinking about the basic features. I'm going to be thinking about what is the tourist long-term goal, right? And I normally ask a question like that so that I get a grasp of where's the interviewer's head at. What are they trying to get out of this question?
Right. No, absolutely. And I think, yeah, because following, it was really easy to follow along. And you talked about the users, and maybe I think the one thing I would add, maybe another, I mean, it's also a lack of time, but maybe talking about another user criteria, like what like, or maybe another pain point. Kind of think you highlighted 2 different pain points. But I think I may be highlighting 1 or 2 more pain points. But I guess it's also like a lack of time kind of going on here. But yeah, I want to hear your criticism behind it. What do you think you could have done better, or what you liked and what you didn't like?
Yeah, a whole lot of things. I mean, I just kind of stuck to the framework, which I typically don't do. I think this one, it just felt easy to just kind of sprint through circles.
Yeah.
Typically what I like to do is kind of break down what this app could accomplish for different kinds of journeys, right? I try to set a couple goals, and then like strategically like be like, okay, in terms of like a higher level goal, if this is what we're trying to optimize for, which is revenue, strategically, which journey do we want to think about? What do we want to index on the most heavily, right? And it's kind of like a level up from user needs, but it's a very important strategic decision. And then after I go to that, like, you kind of do the user needs stuff. Like you kind of always need to really be nuanced about that. Another thing I do there is really crisply step through the user journey, which I did not do here. I kind of just thought of the first 2 things from the last time I went to Italy, which is that I didn't know where I was going, and that there's time constraints and there's these cultural things. Like there's things I had in my mind from last time when I went to Italy. But what you should be doing there is stepping through the user journey really critically and going through the nuance of it. There might be a terrible part of the bike rental journey, like not being able to find bikes, right? And you can't use GPS because maybe if you're in a foreign country, you don't have data, right? So then what do you do then? Then no tourists are gonna rent your bike. How do you solve that, right?
Right.
That's a way bigger problem than any of this shit, right? And so I would definitely step through the user journey a lot more discreetly. I'd communicate that with the interviewer as well, because it shows my user focus. And once again, I would probably show a little more prioritization work, show them where my head's at. And then with the solutions, what I typically like to do is like, I like to think of like more than just 3. And then I like to put them into like a game plan on like a roadmap of like, what's 1, 2, 3, and what's the vision, right? Like if we do 1, 2, 3, what's the vision? And I think that helps communicate it a lot better, rather than just like, this is the solution we're going to go for, right? Because for a lot of these problems, it's not a solution. It's like it's a product, right? So how can we build a long-term product, a vision for a long-term future? And I did it also with metrics. I would have stepped through the user journey again and communicated to people like, this is the most high leverage moments of the user journey. This is what we care about the most. So these are the metrics we want to track. I kind of did that a little bit here, but I just sprinted through that as well. But yeah, those are just a handful of things I would have done differently. If you want a more exhaustive list of what I would have done differently, I have a 10-page guide on that.
Absolutely. Again, that's a good plug, Bhavish. Again, we're like, and
Yeah.
thank you for going through that exercise. And I just have, I guess, one follow up question very shortly is that, what do you think in this product design question, which is the most important part here? Like, which is the part where that you could really wow the interviewer, and how can you make your answers very exceptional and amazing?
Yeah.
What do you think
I,
is that part? What you can do?
it's all about having a very, very like deep, nuanced, and clear understanding of like the user will make you stand out so much, right? Like if you say something about the user that your interviewer has never thought of, like I can almost guarantee you're gonna like you just ace the interview, right?
Right.
Especially if you communicate it properly and you tackle it and you have like some good solution for it. If you do all those things right, I think you've nailed the interview. That's the most important part. Like a lot of people over-index on creativity. I feel like everyone's like, oh, like that idea was so amazing. Like, but like in reality, like when you're a PM, like your ideas are going to be shit, and like any idea you think of right now is going to be shit. Like it just is, right? These
Yeah.
aren't good ideas. They're all terrible, right? Like they have absolutely no data behind them. They have absolutely no like evidence on why this will work. They have no use. Like they're all terrible ideas. It's the fact, right? And so like creativity is great and all that, but I think it'll only get you so far. I think your thinking behind the features is more important than the features themselves. And I always believe like that's something I think will always be useful for you to think about. But yeah, that's my opinion on things. I also will one more note I will say is that I think the biggest mistake I've seen from people doing mock interviews for internship, full-time programs, et cetera, is practicing way too many product design and not doing enough of the other parts of like what I call the funnel. And that's like thinking about high level strategy stuff, like why should we even build this? Should we even invest in technology? Or even lower level execution stuff? Let's say we have these bikes, we're going to put them in Barcelona. We have the technology, we made the app, we did everything, right?
Yeah.
How do you do it then? What would you do to get it in the hands of people in Barcelona? Because that's still your responsibility as a product manager, right? So how would you do it? Because that you're not adding any features now. What you're doing is like a tactical reasoning of who the personalities that you're gonna have to deal with are, and how you would execute those steps in a manner that's going to get these into people's hands, right? And so that's also something people don't practice a lot. So both of those ends of the spectrum is what you should practice more of, rather than just kind of getting this middle part, which is the product design, which is very important. Don't get me wrong; it's a very important part of it. Probably most questions you get will be in that part, but the questions that are going to set you apart are going to be on the two ends.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you for sharing that. That was like a lot of valuable information there, and like I think we have a very engaged audience now, and we can wait to also like share this with everyone else after as the recording version. But Sid, do you have any thoughts on your end? And also like, yeah, what are your thoughts?
No, I really enjoyed it. I thought Bhavesh really covered some really important aspects of things, and with the time, I think it was absolutely amazing because he really made through everything, made sure to cover quite a few scenarios. So I personally really enjoyed it. I've done a couple of mock interviews with Shafuz. I can say he's nowhere as close as good as you.
Ouch.
I don't know about
Okay,
all that. I don't know about all that, but thank you. I appreciate the compliments.
For sure. And there's
yeah.
some comments we have too. So this is awesome. We've really been engaging people. So Kareem, awesome.
This is awesome. I know all these people, so this is so nice to see them like this.
Yeah. He also gave a shout out to you that he said that really he enjoyed working with you at Google.
Yeah.
And that was another comment.
Yeah, Kareem is one of my favorites. He's an awesome guy.
There's that. And then there's another one too about payment for the renting app subscription or dollars per trip stuff. So quite engaging. I think people really enjoyed your response to this. So thanks so much.
Wow, thank you for letting me kind of see that all these people are watching this. Now I'm even more critical of myself. Hopefully, I didn't say
Yeah, man,
anything
you should.
weird.
Yeah, man, you should be. Come on, yeah, you gotta hold the standards, man. But that was good. I think it was. I think it's good to see that someone like your approach and someone who actually made it, and you got that Google APM and the full time, and so it's really good to see how you thought about it, and I think that's super valuable. And I know, Bhavish, we're way over time, and we don't want to keep you for too long, but I think the other part, but very shortly, we're not gonna dive into it, but what was a little bit, if you want to describe shortly, what was your life as a Google APM intern? How would you describe it?
Yeah, I would say the first 5 weeks are basically just you don't even belong to be in this position. Like, you don't know what the hell you're doing. Everyone is more qualified than you, and they're going to be more qualified than you for like forever, right? Like,
Yeah.
everyone's smarter than you, and you're just like way in over your head, right? And then at some point, you just need to put your foot down and be like, okay, they're all smarter than me. They all know more than me. I'm just going to try to tread water, right? And eventually, once you start treading water, and once you like kind of get a feel for how you can swim, like, you can then try to start swimming, and then like you it's kind of just like you keep gutting through it. You kind of just keep learning more, reading more documents, just getting more and more knowledge until you get to like this state where you're like, okay, I know enough people, I have good relationships with people, I can just go talk to them if I want to like vet an idea, or if I want to like, discuss this execution, discuss this piece over here, and things start moving a lot faster once you get to that state. I know it's not the answer. Probably you guys wanted to get something like, oh, at 9 a.m. I do this, at 5 p.m. I do this. But like, the reality of the situation is it's very different every day. Every day's changing, because the products are changing. You're accomplishing new things every day, and the PM needs to adapt accordingly, I guess. I would say every day is a lot of meetings, a lot of one-on-ones with people, a lot of talking to people, getting people on the same page, a lot of alignment, and a lot of decision driving is really the thing. I think my host there, I don't know if now that Kareem's watching, I don't know if Cody's watching. If Cody's watching, hi Cody. Big thanks to you too. But Cody was my host, and he, when I asked him like, okay, like how would you describe being a PM, and he was just like, you're just the person that needs to make sure that decisions are made, and as quickly as possible, and that the best decisions are made. And that was honestly a pretty good definition. It's one of the most concise definitions I've ever heard, and it's a pretty solid definition. And so even as an APM intern, like, you can't help make any decisions in your first 6 weeks because you don't know anything. So do everything you can to learn as much as you can, and then do everything you can to drive a decision after that. And never stop trying to learn from the people around you, because they're all smarter than you. But yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you. That was I think that was a really good insight into it, and congratulations for having the return offer. You're officially the incoming APM upon graduation, so that must be super exciting, huh?
Yeah, so, very exciting.
So you definitely owned it, your internship. You made the most of it. So you are, it's gonna be super excited for you. And I think to wrap it up, Bhavish, what's your recommendations for people who are kind of recruiting, like top 3 recommendations you would give people? I know we mentioned this a little bit, but if you want to summarize it, top 3 for students who are currently in their junior year, or even as seniors trying to going to recruit for product management this fall. Top 3.
Yeah, feel free to throw in Thai food and 18 mock interviews in a weekend.
do not do that. Okay, first recommendation is be ready for a lot of difficulty. This goes for anyone recruiting. Like, it's an emotional journey. There's gonna be times where you feel like you're just not good enough. Like, you're not meant for this. Like, whatever. Like, I just need to set my goals lower, right? But you're only like, if you're the only way you're gonna feel that, the only way you're gonna go through the tears, the only way you're gonna go through the hardship is because your goals are high, and that's something to take pride of, right? Never something to be disappointed in yourself in. And setting a high goal for yourself, and setting a goal that's even too difficult for you to possibly achieve, is only respectable. There's nothing wrong in that, and there's absolutely everything admirable about that. So first of all, like, that's just like one thing I want to say, because I know it's very difficult for me. Just like seeing all my friends getting jobs, and like, it came in a little more slowly for me. Like, I did well in the end. Like, I got good SWE offers, I got good PM offers, but it happened way later than everyone else, and it was just emotionally taxing. Second suggestion I would have is just be a sponge. Learn, just grow from everything. Like, what you're reading, the news, I have this guide that I wrote. I definitely read it if you're recruiting PM. And there's a ton of resources I put in there, but soak up those resources, soak up the mock interviews, soak up any feedback. It does not matter if they've done 1 mock or no mocks, or they've done 100 mocks, or just take their insights and learn from them, because at the end of the day, you're just trying to, the most important thing you can do in interviews is impress someone, right? And if they're giving you feedback, that means they weren't impressed, right? Or there was some component of it they weren't impressed by. So take feedback from everyone and just be a sponge about it. And I think that the third insight, I kind of summed up the most of my insights. I think the third insight would be like, I don't know, be passionate about it. Like, know why you're doing it. Like, I feel like there's when you're recruiting, especially in college, it's so easy to just do things because everyone else is doing them, or do things because like there's a good name behind it. And I fall into this pitfall as well. But taking a second to introspect, understand like, why the hell am I doing this? Like, how have like the things I've done in my life led me here? And why? And what am I going to do with this 5 years, 10 years from now? I know it's scary, it's daunting. You're a college student. Why do you have to think 5, 10 years down the road? But at the end of the day, doing that's just going to make you feel more confident in the things you're doing. It's going to drive your motivation. It's going to drive everything for you. It's going to be able to tell you, it's going to help you tell a story in interviews, career fairs, emails, LinkedIn messages, whatever, right? So take that second to introspect, understand why the hell you're doing what you're doing. And that goes for people recruiting, not just PM, goes for anyone. I think that's something that really helped me last year and this year. I do a lot of introspection, if you guys couldn't tell already, and it's really, really helpful for me. So yeah.
No, absolutely. No, thanks for all that insights. I think that's like that's a really great takeaways from here. Sid, any thoughts from what Bhavish just shared?
No, I was taking notes. So
You've been taking notes.
All right. Thanks so much, Bhavish. It's been absolutely awesome. I mean, we were already 17 minutes over time, so we really, really appreciate you sticking around and sharing insights. I think the mock absolutely blew us all away. So thanks so much for going through that and bearing with Shafuz and I. Any closing thoughts?
Just thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And anyone watching this or anyone watching the recording, I'd love to help any way possible. I know it's a difficult time in terms of the job market. Please feel free to LinkedIn message me, and I can, review a resume, do anything else you need me to do. So yeah, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always there to help. And thank you, Sid and Sharfuz, for even having me here today and asking me these really awesome questions that I might have not even thought about a lot of them. And thank you for keeping me on my toes with these PM interview questions.
We're glad.
Yeah, Bhavish. And yeah, I'm super excited to collab with you again in the future. Just like when you're done with your happy to share your resources with the audience, and I think it's going to be super helpful. And thanks for paying it forward and just being so helpful with all the other aspiring PMs. It's been amazing talking to you, man. Thanks for spending such your Saturday afternoon with us. So it's been great. Thanks a lot, Bhavish.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thanks so much for watching, guys. Make sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and consider subscribing to receive a notification next time we post. Catch you next time.
Wow.
Okay. Like this?
My God.
Oh.
My God.